Farewell to Nostradamus gave us Kenichi Kurita's debut as Lupin, while this marks the first time in the TV movie he's voicing the character. This movie also marks the last time Hiroshi Kashiwabara collaborates with Osamu Dezaki on a Lupin project, joined this time by Shinzo Fujita and Shoji Yonemura. Diana Archer is our leading lady this time around, voiced by Maya Okamoto. The ending theme is Yume Nara Ino ni, which translates roughly to I Wish It Was a Dream, though Yuji Ono's YouTube channel credits every version he's done of it as Just Fall in Love. Take your pick on the name, I suppose. A figure clad in black targets a statue of a bear on display in a museum. It's Lupin, of course, and he evades law enforcement to reunite with Jigen. The statue was once owned by Harimao, a thief who operated in Malaysia during World War II and stole from all sides, amassing an $800 billion treasure. And it isn't the creation of Ichi. There are two more statues, a falcon and a monkey, that are needed to actually access the treasure. Goemon's waiting with their plane on a frozen lake, but he's now charging by the hour for his services. He takes out the pursuing force with ease, so at least he's worth his rate. The gang fly out to find the man who has knowledge of the other statues. A woman flies right past them, annoying Lupin. That said, he admits she's at least his type. I mean, I figured every woman was his type, but hey. Fujiko is currently working as the assistant to one Lord Archer, taking a tour of his personal museum. He was a super spy during the war, and served as the basis for James Bond. The lady pilot makes her landing there, revealed to be Archer's granddaughter Diana, a professor of archaeology. Meanwhile, Zenigata's taking a trip through the Eurotunnel. He gets into an argument with the conductor, because he's using an open flame to heat his noodles. The argument's interrupted by an explosion, leading to the tunnel flooding. Fujiko feeds some info to Lupin, admitting Archer's winning her over. As Diana converses with Fujiko, Archer learns of the explosion and freaks out, as he's the sole underwriter for the Eurotunnel's insurance. Archer heads to London, more specifically Lloyd's Insurance. Lupin keeps watch, recognising Diana as the air hug from earlier. Archer's lawyer, Russell, tells him that he doesn't have enough assets to cover the cost of repairs. Archer requests some time, as he has a plan in mind, claiming he never loses a bet. He shows a photo of the statues, confirming the existence of Harimao's treasure. Lupin snaps some shots of the scene. Overexcited at the treasure's existence, Lupin gets too close for Jigen's comfort, who in turn ends up pushing him away a bit too hard. Zenigata's been arrested, having swam back to England, and no one believes he's ICPO. He doesn't seem to have much luck whenever he's in London. Lupin ends up crashing right on top of him. Unfortunately, Zenigata can't chase as he's still under arrest. The falcon statue is located somewhere in Milreva Castle, Amsterdam. Lupin goes off the tourist's path, deducing it'd be on display if they'd found it. They find Goemon meditating in front of a Buddha statue. He's bothered by the hand gesture, as it's not seen in the teachings. Breaking the offending finger off is a bit excessive, but it does open up a passageway. Navigating through, the gang end up in front of a pair of doors. Goemon suggests the red door, but that leads to a spike pit that tries to suck them in. The blue door's slightly less dangerous, though Lupin ends up falling down another hole. Jigen tries to follow, but nearly gets impaled by ceiling spikes. Meanwhile, Zenigata's tracked down Lupin's hotel room. He finds a couple of spare jackets, but no Lupin. Deciding to wait, he gets a few more noodles ready. He also discovers the bear statue, figuring it works for a good lid weight. Jigen and Goemon make their way through the blue room in an attempt to help Lupin. Lupin has an easier time of it, though he does end up blocked by one of those damn sliding puzzles. Navigating past it, he finds that Diana's beaten him to the statue. She cheated to get there through the use of a jetpack, and worse still, the pedestal the statue was located is armed with a gravitational device. Jigen and Goemon catch up and cut Lupin free. Lupin readies a glider to chase after the archers on their boat. A helicopter flies overhead, piloted by a man in a rather familiar uniform. The proximity shreds Lupin's glider, but he escapes harm by, rather literally, pulling a parachute out of his ass. Jigen's on hand with the speedboat to continue the pursuit. Diana gets some arms ready, but Fujiko is an innocent wallflower who has certainly never held a gun before. It's a gas gun either way, though Lupin has a rebreather ready. Only Lupin. Zenigata's fallen asleep waiting for Lupin, but he gets woken up by the boat chase. Archer attempts to gain some ground thanks to passing a cruiser that ends up blocking Lupin's path. Lupin won't be undone by something that simple, even if he lands at a bad angle. The helicopter pilot, Goering, you decide whether or not to add the third to his name, puts out an order to block Archer's boat. Lupin and Jigen spot his men, the Neo Himmel, as they pull themselves to ground. Climbing back to the street, Lupin and Jigen bribe a couple for their bike. As Goering's men surround Archer, he loads up a weapon cache. Goering isn't intimidated and fires back, causing Archer to fall through the boat's door. The statue slips out of his jacket, but he conceals it before Fujiko can get a chance to swipe it. Archer and Fujiko fight back against the Neo Himmel. Unfortunately, Goering also fires a missile at a nearby bridge to block their path forward. He orders his men to take the statue, as well as the innocent girl, captive. Fujiko's annoyed they interpret that to mean Diana. Jigen manages to pull a bike stunt to get Lupin to Goering's helicopter. Lupin demands the Falcon statue back. Goering's kind of a powerhouse, however. Beaten senseless, Lupin's dropped out, but Diana manages to catch him. Lupin cuts them free and they land in the river below. Before they can get away, Zenigata arrives on the scene. Zenigata's convinced that Lupin and Diana are working together as a couple. Lupin decides to go along with it, much to Diana's annoyance. ITPO's budget cuts have apparently gotten so bad that Zenigata can only transfer them to Paris via cargo train. He's courteous enough to provide a healthy meal of noodles at least. Lupin and Diana both react when they see his lid weight, but he's not ready to give it up so easily. Lupin decides to drop the cuffs and just take it back when the family heirloom excuse doesn't work. Zenigata chases Lupin out to the top of the train, but Goering attacks. Lupin jumps back down and frees Diana, though she swipes the bear statue as she escapes. Lupin hooks on board Goering's helicopter. He then bluffs Goering, claiming he already stole the Falcon statue. Goering proves to not be the smartest man around, checking the safe and allowing Lupin to actually steal it. Goering tries another beatdown, but Lupin knows his moves now and handles it better. Goering's still a bigger guy and knocks Lupin into the cockpit once he gets a hit in. This ends up knocking the autopilot off, so Lupin bails before they crash. Lupin and Archer decide to team up to get the final statue, though he's forced to agree to Archer getting the higher share of the treasure. Goering also reports to Neo Himmel's leader, Hermaphrodite. No comment. He's beaten around for his failure, I'm not screen capping the tongue biting, and ordered to head to Bangkok in an attempt to get the monkey statue. The gang are already there, enjoying some downtime before they begin the hunt. Russell arrives and warns that the price of repairs has gone up due to inflation. Lupin arrives in costume, giving Archer the chance to assure him the plan's still in action. The Archers accompany the gang minus Fujiko on the journey to guide them to the statue's location. Diana passes the time with some Shakespeare, while Lupin indulges in some manga author named Monkey Punch. Guess he's a fan of Cinderella Boy. They're stopped by a military checkpoint on the way. Fortunately, they have some gifts in the form of adult content. The statue is located at a heavily guarded temple, which Archer plans to invade at 3 AM. As they wait, Archer reveals that he met Harimao during the war. He was saved by the man during a near-fatal attack, who amassed his treasure in the hopes of funding rebuilding efforts for those affected by the war. He fell ill, however, and forged the statues to give to 3 of his top men, who presumably killed each other out of greed for the treasure. Archer was summoned separate from them, and was told a secret about it that is not even divulged to the Queen herself. Fujiko keeps watch on Russell in a restaurant. She also spots Zenigata, still trying to indulge in noodles. She chooses to stay out of his sight for the moment, following Russell to his hotel room. She watches as Russell gets into costume, voice filter included, revealing he's the punnily named Neo Himmel leader. Fujiko waits as he gets out of the shower. Wait, why would you put makeup on before taking a shower? Not important, I suppose. And then reveals that she's well aware of his organisation, or, as they've been labelled, cult. She offers herself as an employee, but Russell balks at her, less for the gun in his face and more that a woman is touching him. 3 AM approaches, and Lupin and Jigen are sent on their way to the temple by Archer. Diana also follows, thanks to her interest in archaeology. Jigen distracts the guards by acting gung-ho about his position. He then activates a flashbang concealed in his cigarettes. For once it's not under the guise of a last smoke. Numbers prove too much for the direct route, so they opt for climbing the outer wall. As Lupin tries to ask Diana out to dinner, they spot Goemon meditating. Lupin's less than pleased to learn he could have just used Goemon's friendship with the temple's elder monk to get in. They find the statue, but Goring attacks as they leave. He tosses Lupin through a window, but gets dragged out with him thanks to Lupin's grapple watch. Due to this, Goring's left to be dealt with by the guard force. The gang's final location is in the waters around the Nicobars, as Russell also learns. As stowing away, Zenigata listens in, learning Fujiko did indeed get in with the Neo Himmel, and she's also offering Goemon at an increased hourly rate compared to the gang. Arriving at the treasure site, Archer places the first 2 statues, revealing they're tied to Indra, the only religious doctrine Harimao subscribed to. The third, the monkey statue, is then tossed into a body of water known as the Lake of God. The treasure is then revealed, a gigantic golden submarine lined with platinum and filled with numerous treasures. Neo Himmel arrive and attack, so the gang go underwater. Zenigata also tags along, ever persistent in his arrest attempts. Russell bombards them from the sky, also dangling Fujiko and Goemon as hostages. Goemon just cuts them loose, more annoyed that he's not getting paid for this now. Archer's forced to surface as one of the submarine's air tanks is hit. Russell boards the submarine and overpowers Lupin and Jigen. He then makes an attack on Diana, but Lupin strikes first. The punch knocks his voice filter out, revealing his identity to Archer as Neo Himmel board. Fujiko sneaks in among the forces, kissing Russell and grossing him out again. Goemon and Zenigata are waiting above, knocking him back into the sub. In the ensuing fight, Russell fires at Archer. Lupin takes Russell out, but Archer's wound is fatal. Archer orders everyone to escape, planning to sink the submarine permanently. In the escape, Zenigata manages to grab and arrest Russell, with Neo Himmel evidently taking priority over Lupin. The gang watch as the submarine sinks beneath the ocean. While probably not the best time to ask someone on a dinner date, Diana decides, why not? There's a nice sense of adventure in this one. A lot of travel to different locations, but it doesn't really feel too scattered like it sometimes can. I find it amusing a character being the basis for James Bond is a prominent secondary character, as Lupin and Diana's dynamics sort of feels like James Bond's with the women in GoldenEye to some degree. Initially dismissive and shrugging him off, but eventually his charm wins them over. Bit of a downer ending as there's still the issue of the Eurotunnel. Maybe Russell has to handle it under Lloyd's now that his plan and cult were exposed. Sort of a funny thing there too, as the actual Lloyds merged with TSB for a while due to financial issues. Probably not the same reason though. Russell's a mixed one, as on one hand he's certainly effective as a villain, being able to take down Archer and beating subordinates like Goering as well as the gang around. On the other hand, some light flirting from Fujiko's enough to make him cower. I guess it was a Japanese media stereotype in the 90s or something. I like a lot of the small character moments here at any rate. Stuff like Zenigata's love of ramen and Goemon's charging by the hour for his samurai skills. Also the little fourth wall breaks like Lupin whistling part of the opening and reading Monkey Punch manga. Archer and Diana fit quite well with Lupin's antics too, managing to hold their own in the search for the statues. Art-wise, there's certainly a leap up from Dezaki's previous movie. He's always been good with lighting, but here in particular has some really nice effects going on. Animation seems to have been bumped up pretty nicely too, even with some of Dezaki's usual techniques from previous outings in play. Quite a few sequences where there's a lot of stretch and squash employed, giving a lot of flow. Almost rubbery in a way, sort of. For example, Goering beating Lupin around in the helicopter. I also quite like the multiple perspective split screen effect, seeing both perspectives animated simultaneously. Certainly a lot of slapstick going on here in terms of tone, possibly to distinguish it from the last few movies going a bit darker than usual. I imagine it's probably not for everyone on some fronts, but I feel this was a good movie for Dezaki to bow out on over From Russia with Love if nothing else. Next time, the gang enter a nation on the brink of revolution in search of gold as its prince is debated to be dead or alive. Until then,